Most humans, including psychics and channelers, aren't going to really understand this video, but it's a master class for ascended masters and their graduates. So if you understand and resonate with it, you're probably part of the latter group. Do you notice that orb that just flew above me? This is going to be kind of fun. At least I think it is. Okay. You want to just jump in here?
Sure.
Okay.
All right, let me go. We are thrilled to be here.
Hi, Joshua. Well, first I want to start off by saying that I follow a lot of channelers and a lot of channel beings, but Joshua is like one of my all-time favorites because they're a non-physical, higher density being that travels throughout the galaxy, helping other species, including humans, rise to a higher plateau of density. And they give us very practical ways of making that bridge to actually accomplishing that. So I just love you guys, and I just want you guys to know that up front. That being said, I do have some very woo-woo questions that are probably a little bit outside the normal Joshua menu box, but I know everything is perfect, and I know that they answer everything perfectly, so I don't ever worry. And don't worry, I'm not going to ask Joshua about masturbation this time, but I do have a list that I'm going to ask. So the first list, or the first section, is titled "My Current Evolution and Role." So the first question is that I have now completed a lot of my Joshua Freedom Project work. What feedback and wisdom does Joshua have regarding my current stage of human growth, expansion, and ascension?
We would start by saying that you, as an incarnated soul experiencing physical reality in a environment of separation and forgetting who you are, your pre-birth intention was to come into this life and expand in joy. You are expanding in joy. You are understanding from a very high perspective the mechanism of physical reality. You are a sponge. You have absorbed much. And you are at the highest or most expanded version of your consciousness that has ever existed. You have done everything you intended to do, and your interest and participation in the Freedom Project is the next level of expansion. The Freedom Project is designed to move each student from wherever they are in their perspective as embodied victim to embodied creator. The definition of embodied victim is one who really believes that the outside conditions and people can affect how they feel. As we understand, as you understand, this illusion of separation generates that default perception of reality. And from the most limited perspective, it appears as if things are happening to you. And as things happen, as manifestation events occur, the reaction time for the embodied victim is instantaneously. As you move along your arc from this level of embodied victimhood to embodied creator, the distance between the event and the reaction lengthens until you arrive at whatever closeness or proximity you can or you will arrive to embodied creator, which would be once you receive inspiration, the body just acts on that inspiration. So that's the arc of transformation that you and all Freedom Project students are going through. And each student is making their movement on their specific or unique timeline, and everything is always working out perfectly. You must remember that the expansion that you've achieved from your perspective is extremely high, and yet you can't imagine where that expansion could lead. And so the work you do to endeavor to expand that perspective even more is what you truly want in this incarnation. The gifts that you have come in with will be revealed to you as you continue to expand your perspective. How you see yourself, as you can remember in earlier times in your life, was at a limited perspective compared to where you are now. That perspective was the opposite of who you were or who you've always been. And this is by design. You come in and you chose the family and the specific society and conditions of that childhood that were generated based in the beliefs you brought in with you, either from past lives or from family history. And your perception of reality at that time, at that younger age, was exactly the opposite of how it works. And you can see that fully. You moved along a path to learn more spiritual concepts that would assist you in moving out of those lower densities into the higher, lighter, easier, faster, funner, freer densities, which you now occupy. And so from the perspective where you are now, you can see the great journey that you've come on, but you can't possibly imagine what's next for you. And so we say, and we congratulate you on the work that you've done, but we want to also emphasize the wonderful life that's waiting for you as you continue your work.
Excellent. Through Christy and other channelers, I've gotten background that I am the Galactic Ambassador, although there are many. And Christy, in one reading, said that I actually sit on many galactic councils and multidimensional groups that intersect with Joshua, but is not a part of the Joshua collective consciousness. And can you explain the nature of higher density councils and my relationships with them?
We will say that the non-physical and even the physical realities in other planets, we'll say, other dimensions, are inconceivable from your perspective now. They are a fun reference point, a fun idea to play with, but you couldn't possibly understand the magnitude, the level of conscious awareness, the almost non-existent fear in those densities. And there's no way you could possibly relate to it. The idea of an ambassador is a word in human terms. The idea of a council is a word in human terms. The linear progression is a human understanding. And so whatever you imagine that meaning to bring to you is perfectly suitable for the life that you're living now. There is no real purpose in refining it other than to say that you are a consciousness interested in consciousness and evolution and expansion and moving from the illusion of fear and separation to the truth of connection and joy. So your intention in this life is to experience the transformation for yourself. And from that experience of transformation, you can, one, be a role model or an example for others. You can allow others to explore these topics in your own way. You can act as a teacher and a guide for other humans who are intending to experience the same expansion or a similar expansion that you are, which is almost every human that you'll come in contact with. Now, the awareness where they are, their perspective at any time when they intersect with you is no accident. It is possible to convey ideas when you are clear. Now, generally speaking, the human will believe that other humans need help, that other humans are imperfect, that other humans if they knew what you knew, their lives would be so much better. And while this is true, information cannot really be conveyed the way you think it can. You see, learning is remembering. Remembering happens from a perspective that is less limited. If you believe you know nothing, if you are living in lower densities in fear, if you are perceiving the outside conditions that are happening to you, if you believe that conceptually you may be the creator of your reality, yet you are not creating the reality that you want, your words, generally speaking, either fall on deaf ears or are interpreted by the person from whatever their perspective is. The conveyance of pure information that's regurgitated from what you've heard before has very little effect because it is beyond the scope and understanding of those you interact with. However, your presence, your good humor, good nature, your inclusion, this is what affects people more than anything you can imagine. And you enjoy spouting information that you've learned, yet this is coming from a place that is not really tuned to the vibration or perspective of the person you're with most often, because they tend to be those who are seeking something that will give them some form of relief from the manifestation events that they're experiencing and the way that their pre-birth intentions are unfolding. Now, there's no accident they bump up with you, and yet, from your perspective, you say, I think I need to give them some information that will help them see what's really going on here, and to some effect that works, but the primary benefit that you offer is your presence, your acceptance, your love, and when you can see them as perfect without any contrast or conflict going on, without any need to change, without any attachment to outcomes, then your wisdom comes through. Now, your wisdom is completely different than what you think you know. Your wisdom is your truth. Your information that you've accumulated along the way has got you here, and therefore it's valid and good, but yet it is, one, filtered by whoever brought it in, and two, filtered from your perception of those words. This is all well and good. You can refer to it. Gary uses this information as a foundation and then allows us to bring in more valid or reasonable or less filtered clarification of these certain issues. Now, this is why meeting Christy for Gary was so important, because then he could validate what we've said to him, what we've said to others, and this gave him a level of confidence in what we were teaching. As soon as he discovers a new subtlety of some teaching, that then goes into his base of understanding, and from there the fear is reduced and we are able to move into those areas with more clarity. So what's happening with Gary is he has been learning how to allow the clarity to come through without attachment to how it looks, how it sounds, what it says, any of that. And as he's in the process of channeling, he sometimes rubs up against something that he does not understand, doesn't believe, whatever it is, but he's allowed himself to push past the fear and say the words and then realize that he can always listen to this later and understand it, because as it's coming through, it generally does not align perfectly with his accepted base of knowledge. And because he's not attached to outcomes, he allows it to come through, realizing that every single time he edits one of these conversations, he understands it clearly, and he can see the difference between what was coming through and his idea of it as it was coming through. Because as it comes through, he is not yet a vibrational match to that information. That information is slightly higher in perspective. And he has to absorb it while he's talking, while he's spouting it out. And this is something he's gotten used to, and this is something you'll get used to. If you have an identity that's involved in being a teacher, being a leader, being someone who knows everything, then the information that's coming through you has difficulty coming through clearly. You might not believe it, might be inspired to say something, yet the fear will pop up saying, is this appropriate? I don't have any basis for this information coming through. I haven't read this somewhere else before. I haven't learned about this yet. It doesn't sound like it aligns with what this person said or that person said or that person said. And so you stop yourself when that inspiration flows. Now, that inspiration is often blocked by your need to be correct. Your need to say the right thing at the right time to the right person in all ways. And so this is the edge where you're moving towards. This is what the Freedom Project is helping you do. It's inviting you to use what you know as a base with a grain of salt, but to allow your wisdom to come in, because your wisdom is being channeled to you through your inner ambassador, through your inner council. They are all waiting, just as we waited for Gary for so long, to come through you. And as soon as you realize that that information coming through you is unique to you and cannot be replicated by anyone else, has never been said before at any time. Those who are listening to Gary for the first time, they might say, oh, well, this is like that channel or this is like that channel. But those of you who have been paying attention for a while realize the significant elevation in perspective with which we come through compared to the channels that you've observed before. While they all have their certain role and their purpose, those of you on the leading edge of the leading edge of the leading edge of thought have come to a place where you can accept more practical information that will do one thing and one thing only: shift your own perspective of yourself in your reality, because until you get to that level, nothing else matters. Nothing else, everything else is just nice words, good feelings, positive aspects, that sort of thing. You and those of you in this community demand more. And this is the reason we are here. Because the human evolution has come to a place where there is a group of people at the leading edge who are requesting more specific information. You are the creator of your reality. That's all good and well, but how is that actually created? And from the human perspective, the limited perspective, it's if I could create my reality, I would create it based in my imagination. But my imagination is simply what's been done before. The concept of unimaginable is very difficult for humans because they want to control their expansion. They want to control their reality. They want to control what is manifested and what is kept away. From that understanding, it's impossible to hear these words. Therefore, those who can hear these words at whatever level are those who have come to redefine consciousness in physical reality, and you are one of those such people.
I agree with you 100%, and I'm getting there in terms of embodying it, but I get you 100%. The next topic is about the great retreats that we have at Joshua. So during the retreats, multiple participants come up to me and they tell me that they witnessed me shapeshifting and changing to different forms during the retreat. Some say that they see different forms appear to me, and galactic, Buddhist, just different, sometimes it's like 8 different faces show up on me. Can you explain shape-shifting from a multi-dimensional perspective? Does it really happen? Or I know they're really seeing. I know they're not imagining it because they're all very psychic beings, but can you explain that?
The retreats create an environment of safety, connection, and love. In that environment, everyone is lifted in perspective. When you do the heart opening ceremony, all you're doing is releasing fear. In the releasing of fear, more is available to you. Mm-hmm. You must understand that those who come to the retreats are naturally gifted empathically, have their own unique talents, and are waiting for an environment where they don't have to protect themselves. In the removing of that protection, they are open to seeing the truth of this reality. Now, the intention of those who come and gather at these retreats is to see the perfection and the truth and the essence of the others in that environment. And so the field that's created allows those within the field to experience more of physical reality than is what is normally seen. And this goes beyond seeing the different faces. It goes into seeing UFOs and seeing anomalies in the sky and seeing the sun in a different way and seeing each other as more complete. In this understanding, those faces that they see on you are always there. They're always available to see. If you were in a collective consciousness without the fear, this would just be part of how you know one another. And so this is a natural byproduct of the collective consciousness of humanity, to see the past lives, the past incarnations, wherever they are, whether they were on Earth or anywhere else. And so you see a lot of the essence of the person. They see a lot of your essence, but what they see is unique to them, of course. They are not seeing the true version of you. They were seeing a representation of an idea of you in other densities and dimensions and lives and things like that. But what's really happening is, in this environment of love, they are learning to understand the perfection of each other. And in that removal of all resistance, they are getting to the essence. And the essence of your being shows up to them as a representation of who you truly are and how you exist in other realities, other timelines, other incarnations, that sort of thing. Of course, this is somewhat filtered by their perception of hearing your history, of understanding you as the ambassador. What does that sound like? Of you being on other planets, galactic. And so their representation of what an ambassador who is galactic might look like comes through them. Gary has his vision, what he saw, and Christy has hers, and the others have theirs. But like anything else in physical reality, no one sees the same thing. So this is just the essence of who you each are. And it is not the final accurate representation. It is a game, and it's fun, and you have all agreed to play that game. Now, having this experience, understanding the depth of each person, they become more intimate with each other, with you. And so they can go forth from this community, from this gathering, and into their communities, and they can start to, sometimes when they're being present, feel the essence of the person they're in front of. And in that feeling of the essence, they open up their presence to a field one-on-one with this person who was not at the Joshua community, who exists in their life, maybe a family member, maybe a friend, maybe a loved one, and they start to receive insight. You all receive the insight because in those moments you see each other as more perfect than you ever have before. You drop your guard, you are in a comfortable environment, and so you see what's there. This can be done in every situation. So this is one of the grand adventures and benefits of these retreats, because each person has the feeling of what it's like to be open and present, and then see what's there that's always in the background of every moment when there is no resistance. The perfection of each moment, the perfection of each person. So you're going forward in front of anyone. You haven't seen them in such an environment. It's someone who's not part of the retreats. Yet when you are present, and when you are intending to see them as perfect, and when you're realizing that the interaction is not for their benefit, but for your benefit. Gary is not here for your benefit. He is here for his benefit. He is here to get something out of this communication. And this is how you move into without attachment, without worrying about an outcome, without worrying about how you're perceived. You become present and available, and then you receive words and ideas and even visions of this other person that is aligning with the foundation of information you understand, yet is completely unique to you. Now, we will promise you that when you transition from being a teacher spouting information that you've read elsewhere to being one who can exist in the moment, fully present, understanding that this exchange is for you and you have no effect on the other person, nor need any outcome, because your identity has now relaxed to the point where you don't need the positive feedback. You don't need the self-reference that comes from others giving you accolades or pats on the back, or even status within the community. When you listen to the Joseph Campbell and Ram Dass Egg Talk, you understood that the hero's journey, which you are clearly on, the hero does not suffer all these obstacles and challenges to come back to be applauded. The hero realized the hero got through this journey not because the individual made proper choices, decisions, and took brave action, but was guided every step of the way by a loving and supporting cadre of inner self guides and supporters who fed him or her inspiration that would lead to the eventual culmination of this hero's journey. And so the hero then comes back from the previous identity of, I have to figure this out, I have to conquer this dragon, it's all about me, to I had nothing to do with this at all. I was guided every step of the way. I simply became a clear channel. When the hero comes back irrelevant, the irrelevancy is the identity. The irrelevancy is the need for an outcome or accolades or praise or prestige of any kind. Because the true hero realizes it was never Daryl doing all these wonderful things. It was simply Daryl allowing infinite intelligence to flow through as a clear channel.
Yes, and my hero's journey is writing in it because Daryl's having fun. That's one element that I'm really having a strong lens. Everything in my life is just a lot of fun. So
we would agree that that is the basis of the hero's journey. The hero only needs to make it difficult and serious if that aligns with the belief structure. Once the belief structure has been open to realize that there is nothing serious going on, this is simply a game that you play over and over again at the highest levels.
Yes, and have a lot of fun. So this question is actually like the previous one, but with a focus on eyes. During the retreat, people tell me that they see my eye color changing. One time they changed blue. I think I downloaded that it has to do with you're downloading light, and light is probably reflected in the eyes and is probably even physically changing the eyes, at least instantly, I mean, temporarily. Although I do hear some people have actually had their eye color change permanently. Is that really happening? And then also one time during the retreat, I stared into another participant's eyes and we astral travel, which then I got to download that, well, your eyes are actually like a map, a galactic map, and it gives you detailed information of where you've been, what your history is, not only your human lineage, but your galactic lineage. Can you step that out for me and give me what thoughts you have on it?
Have you ever laid in bed at night and looked at the energy of the ceiling?
Yes.
And you're able to see that?
Yes.
Do you think that you saw that with your physical eyes?
I think I just assumed that I kind of did, but now I think about it, probably I didn't.
What you were believing was what looked like any other sight that you would see with your eyes, and yet you realize that this is not a sight that I could see with my eyes.
Yeah.
For most, it takes 2 or 3 minutes to allow for the shift in reality from a blank canvas, the ceiling on the room in the dark, to what is actually going on there. And so what you are doing is seeing with your third eye, and this is what everyone else is doing as well. As they are seeing you with their third eye, you change. And so there's no difference between them seeing you as different faces to different eye colors. It's all the same thing. Yes, the eye color and nothing else in physical reality is static. It can change, it can move, and certainly it is often a sign of a shift in perspective. Yet, most will have no memory that their eyes were a different color. No one else will remember their eyes were a different color. They shifted to a timeline where their eyes were always that color.
So can the eyes actually act as a portal?
The eyes are multidimensional, like everything else in your body. You have an emotional body, a physical body, a spiritual body. You have all these different things going on at the same time. And the eyes through the third eye is a portal into other dimensions, other densities, other timelines.
Okay. And like anything on Earth, if you have the belief structure and the knowing, you can utilize it in various forms and functions. So yes, you
We,
could if
we would
you.
say this: you have a belief system, a mental construct. You understand that that belief system is a combination of limiting and empowering beliefs and the intensity of those beliefs. This forms then the way you see the world, your perception, but it's all your perspective of yourself. As you shift that perspective of yourself, everything changes. Yet the unusual thing is the only thing that really appears to change is your perception of that reality. So imagine someone with 3 pairs of glasses, each with a different prescription. They put on one pair of glasses, they can see perfectly, and then they shift into another density, and now those glasses are no longer working. And so they pick up the second pair of glasses, and now those glasses somehow, some way, seem to work perfectly, but they have no memory of the other glasses ever working. These are always the glasses they've always worn. And then they shift to another density, and there's the third set of glasses they use, yet they have no memory. Their eyesight is so much better in this new density, and they can't even imagine what these other glasses are for. I would never need those kind of glasses and have no memory of why they had them in the first place. So you see, so everything aligns to your perception, and your perception is generated from your perspective. So you change your perspective, you automatically change how you see your reality and how you interpret that reality, and then it always seems like this has been going on, and you will have different memories. Now, the memories that you think are bad and wrong, and you wish that were no longer there, and you wish that you could jump to a timeline that never happened, we promise you, you do not, because that's the only way you could have gotten here. If you were born in a middle-class house in the middle of Kansas and loving parents and wonderful friends, you would not expand your perspective. You would enjoy that life. There would be no reason for you to seek out more information. You would never get here. And here is where you always wanted to be. So you must understand that as you shift timelines, you need those memories to rely on. Now, those memories, we promise you, aren't the real memories. They are memories that serve this timeline. And you will never get to a timeline that those memories will not be traumatic, because you will have to understand that you traveled some journey to get here, and that this is an overall inversion of how you felt about yourself at younger years. You are moving to the complete opposite of your perspective of yourself back then. You don't know what the complete opposite is, but you can sort of look back and say, well, I perceive myself as a victim. These things did happen to me. How did they happen? Well, they happened because of the vibration that was offering at the time, but that was always going to happen. It had to happen. It had to be perfect, because you would not be here otherwise. Anytime you think that the outside conditions should be different than they are, you are just not seeing the perfection of those conditions, because you're looking at it from a human perspective. But from the perspective of your non-physical inner self, your guides and supporters, your lifetimes as Galactic ambassadorship and council member, all knew this, all understand this perfectly. The human naturally wishes things were different. Naturally wishes things would improve, naturally wishes the conditions would change so they would feel good. Yet, you know, your friends know, that the outside conditions had no ability to make you feel anything. But you go through a traumatic experience and you say, how else would I feel? And of course, it would be impossible to feel else, because the experience matched the perspective exactly at the time for a reason. Now, these experiences aren't happening now. Why not? Because the perspective now is so far expanded from the perspective that you had before. But you have to realize the perspective you had before was obviously going to be that perspective. There was no possible way for you to have a different perspective. And you may say, oh, if I only knew then what I know now, I wouldn't have these experiences. And so you go back in time and you live that life, and you would be nowhere near the version of you that exists now, or any possible way of finding your way to it. And so when you realize that you are the highest perspective in any incarnation that you've ever existed in before, and you've experienced exactly what had to be experienced for you to have this massive shift in perspective based in your pre-birth intentions, you are literally experienced the highest possible timeline to allow those pre-birth intentions to occur in your life. Now, when you return to the non-physical, you'll see this as, oh, obviously perfect. The shift here is going from embodied victim, who sees those as bad, to embodied creator, who has the same perspective or a similar perspective that you would have in the non-physical. Now, you will never get that similar perspective because, of course, you have a survival instinct, you are always in the illusion of separation to some degree, and you have core limiting belief that says, I'm not the creator of my reality. Core limiting belief that is necessary to operate in this reality. Otherwise, everyone would die the moment they got here. You see? So think about the whole setup of this game, right? It is perfect in every way except for perspective. Perspective is clouded by the fear and the illusion of separation and generated to have this experience that cannot be had anywhere else. You came here, brave, courageous, maverick, explorer, ambassador, after many lifetimes of preparing to come here, and you took a very interesting path, perfect based on your intentions, so that you can see now that to come from that insanely limited perspective to the perspective we have now, you must understand you did not do this just for you. You did this for all humanity. You did this for all non-physical, because the energy that is erupted from your shift in perspective is inconceivable from where you are now. And the energy of the shift in perspective from those you touch and will touch is inconceivable from where you are now. But when you return to the non-physical, you'll say, oh, yeah, okay, I can see that now. You won't pat yourself on the back. You won't applaud yourself. You won't look around for praise and accolades. You will just say, obvious.
I'll get my praises and accolades now. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so this next one's a fun one. During one Zoom conversation with Gary, a booming voice from behind me answered the question, yes, really clearly, so that Gary heard it, and it was just really weird. Later on that afternoon, when Chrissy did a dead talk, it was the famous philosopher that said, it was me, which meant that that famous philosopher traveled back into time and answered us when we didn't even know that person was going to be the philosopher on the dead talk later on. So can you step that out? Because that has to do with, are there beings with us all the time, regardless of time and space? No matter what we say, every single being's with us at every single time. It kind of makes our 3D mind go poof.
There are so many watching you, so many crammed into that apartment, that you are literally being sent inspiration after inspiration to get a bigger apartment because they cannot fit. As non-physical they are, it's still taking up a lot of room. And so this does not work linearly, but we would say that the yes was there because that presence was there, knowing full well they would come into a future dead talk.
Yeah. Wow, interesting. So I'm not going to feel bad that they're probably watching me pick my nose and eat. There's no judgment with AI, so I'm not going to worry about that.
They do not care. Why would you care? The only reason you care? Fear. If there's no fear, there's no way they could possibly care about things like that. What they care about and what they're interested in and why they're drawn to you, you see, they did not choose specifically to come to you. They were drawn because you're the most interesting place to be based on the vibration that you are offering and that they are interested in. So those in the non-physical have a vibration of What is it like to see a human expand their perspective and carry out their day from this expanded perspective that's never been available before in all of human history? That's their interest, and your vibration attracts them. They cannot not be there. Now, they're not just there one at a time, they're there with you and with all of those who are doing something similar. If you were an inventor or a writer or a singer or a songwriter or a poet, whatever you were interested in, those who are interested in bringing you the inspiration that would lead to the next great song, the next great book, the next great poem would be there with you. If you could align yourself and if you were in such a perspective that you expected the muse to talk through you, you would be able to channel those writings and poems and songs and whatever else you're interested in, inventions, through you. You'd be the path of least resistance. You're the path of least resistance for massive shift in perspective, for a new understanding of physical reality, for a experience of life that is a complete 180 opposite from the life that you were born into. The shift is the thing that's most interesting. And so if you're in the non-physical and you're interested in the energy that's released from the human shift in perspective, that energy draws all those with that like vibration, and they are there in that room supporting you at all time. And when you get a confirmation where you hear something that could not be heard, and two of you hear it, the unimaginable, you must understand that you have entered a version of reality that does not act like what you believe it does or what other humans do. And so when you would tell this to somebody else, they're not going to believe it because it's unimaginable from their perspective. It's just another sign that you are at the level of perspective where you think you are. Yet, can you imagine what could unfold at an even higher perspective? That's all waiting for you as well.
Excellent. I kind of downloaded that there are approximately 12 major Stargates in the world. There are much more, but let's say 12 major ones. And I've been to a lot of them, like in Peru, Egypt, and Europe. I recently came across information that there's a major Stargate in Florida by the Joshua retreat in Saratoga or something like that. So can you give me and other Joshua participants some advice about how to open Stargates more effectively or energetically?
Define a Stargate.
I guess it's like a portal or vortex with a purpose of bringing in galactic energy.
And what is the benefit of this galactic energy?
I assume because the galactic energy is going to help humanity ascend into the fourth density.
And how would you turn off a Stargate?
With your intention. The same way you turn on portals and vortexes.
We would say that it is not necessary. It would be impossible to turn one off. You could not intend to turn one off. If the energy is going to come to the Earth, it's because the Earth has reached a vibration that will allow it. If the Earth has not reached a vibration, if the people on the Earth have not reached a vibration, if this is not in the path, if it's not in the timeline, the Stargate does not appear, does not exist. If the vibration of the Earth and the vibration of humanity has reached a certain level, then it can't be stopped. It will come. It's always, always a vibrational match. There's nothing you have to do. Now, you, from your human perspective, perceive that you need to be in a place at a time in a linear fashion to do a certain thing that you think will be good. Good, not bad. If you thought it was bad, you would not want to do it.
Yeah.
If you thought it was good, you want to do it.
Yeah.
If you thought it was neutral, you would realize nothing needs to be done. If it's fun, you make a little ceremony, you bring your friends together, you be in the retreat, and you do it in a non-local way. Locality has to do with 3D physical density.
Yeah.
So in a 3D physical density way, you would find the site, you would get some backhoes, you would dig it up, you would erect some structure, you would send some attention to it. You would put
Put
crystals
some
all over
crystals
it.
on there.
You
Yeah.
would dance around it. You would light a fire. You would do all these things. You would call in the gods. And
Yeah.
essentially, you'd be doing what you would be doing anywhere else. From a more aligned perspective, more expanded perspective, you realize you don't have to go anywhere. If you are inspired to go, that's a different story, but it's not for the portal. The portal is an idea that you latch onto and use as your excuse to go and travel to these places, but the traveling to the place and the inspiration to go there is for your experience and your expansion. It's never for the expansion of anyone other than you. You can't help the expansion of anyone other than you. You aren't here to alter the expansion or the path of anyone else. You are here to be you and be the influence that you have through your own inspiration to serve your unique personal expansion. That's it. The thought of everyone else and the thought of humanity, the thought of doing anything is all based in fear. You want humanity to come up to a different level and perspective because you believe that's good. You don't want them to stay limited because you believe that's bad. This is a personal, individual belief system that is generating this reality and causing you to do things which are urges to change conditions. What if everything's perfect? What if everything's happening on a perfect timeline? What if your involvement in it is just going to either bring you manifestation events or bring you joy or bring you anything? If you have this idea, this basic premise that everything is working out perfectly for you and everyone else, and you just focus on your expansion, what lights you up, your inspiration, without needing to change anything or alter the timeline or hope or wish or pray anything outside of you is different than it is, you will be clear in that inspiration and you will act without attachment to an outcome, because this is another experience that does one thing. It expands your perspective, and when your perspective is expanded, even if you face manifestation events, this is for your joy. Your joy is found in expansion. Your joy is found in movement. Your joy is found in these ideas, yet they are filtered through a perspective that says things need to be different than they are for me to feel safe, to feel certain, and to feel free. That is not true. Those outside conditions, the politics, the society, the government, the rules, the other people have no effect on you unless you want to play in that lower density. That's up to you. Yet, sure, you're inspired to research some place that someone else said was a portal rather than going within and downloading it yourself. This is where we're leading you. This is where your Freedom Project is leading you. The things that you research out there and believe are based in fear. You want them to be true. You want to get the information to solve your problem of fear. You believe, like all humans, if you know, then there's nothing to fear. If you don't know, then you open yourself up to uncertainty and peril. That is not true. What you do is explore that fear. That's all you're ever doing. Now, you're exploring fear in a much higher, lighter, freer, funner, faster density, and that's fine. Yet, in this next stage of your evolution, it's really about switching off your attention to outside gurus and channels and prophets and woo-woo information, including us, and going inside. Allow the Freedom Project modules to tune you to the version of you that is free from this belief that things are good or bad, free from this belief that you can affect change or need to affect change, or that if you don't do something, things aren't going to turn out right. That is not true. The truth is the perfection of every single moment that you find yourself in. So something like this comes along and you say, oh, there's some portal in Florida. We're going to be in Florida. Oh, why did someone say there's some portal in Florida? Why did you read somewhere where it says there's a portal in Florida?
I don't know. It just came up. So,
Because you're going to Florida.
yeah.
You're going to be there anyway.
Yeah.
You see that this was orchestrated just for you,
Okay.
just for you to play with. It's not
Yeah.
necessarily true. It's not untrue.
Yeah.
You ask 1,000 people, have you ever heard this thing about portals in Florida? And they say no. Why? Because they're not going to Florida. They have no interest in Florida. That's the whole deal. Now, if we said, or if you found that there is a very important Stargate that needs to be open at the North Pole, it's unlikely you'd be arranging your friends to go to the North Pole. But let's make it in Florida. There's something you can play with.
Yeah.
This is how it works out. You see what you see for you, and people see what they see. And so you ask 1,000 people who read that article, and that portal is in different locations.
Okay. Got it. And by the way, there's a portal in Antarctica. So that's what I was not going to go to. But anyhow, Joshua often uses the term inner self. So how does Joshua differentiate between the soul, spirit, higher self, oversoul, and inner self? Are these distinctive structures that have a relationship to each other, or are they simply human words that describe consciousness beyond the veil, and we should just leave it at that broad kind of understanding?
From Gary's understanding, especially with regard to other channels and other spiritual teachers, their terms were higher self or inner being.
Mm-hmm.
A clarification arose, one, to differentiate our teachings from other teachings, and two, a refinement in a human conceptualization of what a soul looked like. So for the general population, the term soul suffices. For those who are seeking a higher perspective in an understanding of the non-physical and the relationship between the human and their soul, the higher self comes through. And yet the higher self implies that it's a better self. It's detached. It's in a different realm. It's out there somewhere. And then a refinement comes even further, and it's defined as an inner being. Inner being the most accurate description of this, because there is nothing outer. The soul is not outside of you. The soul is in you. The inner self is not outside of you. It is in you. The inner being is not outside of you. It's in you. It's not higher. It's not anything. Now, the inner being sounds like a separate being. Inner being is like there's something inside me that is not me.
Yeah.
It is more a reflection of the state of being rather than an entity.
Mm-hmm.
A alien is a being from another planet. And so many interpret this as some other kind of being that's separate from them. So we say self. It is you inside yourself.
Yeah.
And you could see your inner self inside yourself. Gary once saw a person's inner self in their body. And that's exactly what it is. You have an inner being anchoring your physical body that's with you all the time, holding a perspective on your life, experiencing everything you're experiencing without the fear, without the intensity of emotion, holding a presence. As you begin to relate to your inner being as you, there is no separation. It is you. You are the most expanded incarnation of all of the incarnations of that origin consciousness. And so that origin consciousness has expanded based on the life that you're living, and is expanded to the most extreme level, or expanded is the only word we can bring to Gary that would explain this version. So your perspective of yourself is somewhat less than that. And so your inner self is holding the expansion that you have gone through in this lifetime. Your inner self before this life was less expanded than your inner self is now that you've arrived at this point in your life. the entire universe was less expanded than it is now. The consciousness of humanity was less expanded. The earth itself was less expanded. You've come to this position, and your inner self is the most expanded. When you return to the non-physical,
Yeah.
there will be no separation between you and your inner self, but you will know and understand each and every incarnation, and those personalities, that unique vibration that they existed in those realities, still exists. Yet, from your human perspective, you say, okay, well, there was Bob who existed on Earth in the 1500s, and there's Sally who lived on this planet in star date 142564, and yet it is all you. Now, when you listen to the Dead Talks, when you have spirit guides come in, you have the consciousness that is the entirety of that lineage from origin consciousness to whatever consciousness is existing now, yet the vibrational equivalent of who they were in life. And so they have all the aspects, all the traits, all the memories, all the perceptions and perspectives of when they were alive, along with how they see physical reality now. So it's not as if you're going to go back into that soul and disappear forever. There will always be a Daryl consciousness existing within non-physical that's part of the larger channel of consciousness or lineage of consciousness that was there before. Now, imagine 40 past lives. Imagine the belief systems of those past lives. Imagine that the DNA connects you from all those past lives. One strand from those past lives, one strand from your family history, and one strand from the physical incarnation that you are now. Where did those beliefs come from? Where did the vibration come from the day you were born? What was emanating from you? It was the combination of all of this. So this unique life, then where you were born, was the perfect vibrational match to a belief structure that was inherited in the form of your DNA. Lands you the perfect place, the perfect time for that vibration then to generate a reality that could now be seen. You see, it couldn't be seen from any other lifetime because it was just in an imposed belief system that seemed true to the version of you that existed previously. And so that life, when you came in, you had an exploration and an expansion and a possibility to shift your perspective. And you did, but never to the level that you've done in this life, of course. And now many of those beliefs that were brought in with you from family history and from past lives have been softened to such extent through the work that you're doing, through the manifestation of event forms, that you are now existing with a new DNA. The activations, of course, help with that. When you return to the non-physical and then decide to embark on another incarnation, you'll come into a more clear version, yet you will still inherit the belief structures of that family history. But of course, that belief structure is necessary for the new expansion and the new intentions you set for that next life. That's why you're born into that family and that culture and that society, because that gives you the greatest opportunity to have a shift in perspective. Now, you also came in with a highly emotionally sensitive guidance system. This is not easy, and most humans will say, I would not want to be as emotionally sensitive as Daryl, but this caused you to live the life that you've lived, caused you to seek information, caused you to find out more, caused you to have the loves in your lives, caused all of this to happen perfectly to get you here. This was a intention that comes from one who is ready, willing, and able to go on an adventure that most would not want to go on. The adventure is to say, I'm going to go into physical reality and really believe the constructs of the 3D physical system, really believe my beliefs, really believe what people told me, really believe I have no power, really believe that I am a victim, really believe that, and then have such a shift in perspective that it cleanses all of that DNA, all of that family history. All of that is cleansed and healed in this lifetime. Now, as that family lineage then gets incarnated into future generations, it has less of the intensity of that belief structure. And those who, in your family history, come forward, and then when you choose to have another incarnation, you'll have a different kind of structure. And this is the way that humanity evolves. Yet it only happens with perspective, because imagine your next door neighbor and all of the history of their family. And they come in with a belief system that is inherited, but yet they have no shift in perspective. So that belief system then gets transferred on and transferred on and transferred on. There's no interruption in that belief system. Now, the interruption would come generally from the higher vibration of those being born in Earth today. And so there's a new society and a new technology and new ways of living and new possibilities for ideas and belief structures and all that, and new openness to teachings. And so all of this works to evolve the human consciousness. And this is all interesting to us. It's interesting to you in your non-physical or galactic presence. And this is why Gary and you and we have come together, because we were always going to be together. This was always going to be happening. Now, for Gary to get here, he had to have a certain interruption in his path and a certain desire to find information just like you did, and then had to go step by step by step, unwillingly most of the time, to open up and expand his belief system to come to a place where he would receive the inspiration to meditate, and then actually meditate, and then actually pay attention to the presence that came, and then actually talk about that presence, and then actually talk to the presence, and then believe what the presence said. And then when the time came to write, he would get up and go write, and then he would continue, and then he would have to share this with others, and he would have to push past all that fear, and he would have to tell his family members, he would have to tell his friends, and he would have to live in fear of people finding out about him, and he had to worry about other people telling other people, and he had to become more present and more focused and more available and more seen. And he was literally built for this. It was in his DNA. And so if Gary was going to become a channel of Joshua, he had to be born in a certain place to a certain family with certain beliefs and certain experiences in childhood that would allow him to move around a lot so he didn't get attached to too many people, to not have children so he wouldn't be attached to what they think, so that every condition had to be right. To marry someone who was woo-woo by nature and interested in this, and to have a friend, Deborah Jo, who was also there to support this woo-woo nature. You see, everything had to line up perfectly for him to allow us to come through, and you were part of that unfolding, even though you didn't understand it, and so was everyone else in the Joshua community. And so as you allow more of you to come through, you allow those who are waiting in the wings at a little bit lower densities to find you, not what you regurgitate, but what you actually have to offer. Not having to be seen as the one who knows, but the one who's saying, this is what I believe, this is what I understand, I could be wrong, this is how I'm feeling, this is what changed in my life, this is how I am intending to operate for me, yet it may not be for everyone. This is what I found. This is what I listened to. This is what I've learned, but I don't know everything. What do you think? And in those times of softening your need to have all the answers, to be right, to be seen as someone who has all the answers, when you soften this and soften this and soften this, you open yourself up to an unimaginable level of satisfaction where you are having fun, not regurgitating information, but seeing the essence of everyone in your presence. This is your superpower, yet you are blocking the superpower. You are allowing it at certain times, in certain locations, and certain conditions are right, such as the retreat. But this could be your entire life. And if you think this life is fun that you're living, well, it's only a comparison to what you've previously experienced. Wait until you become not the one who is teaching, but the one who is living these principles in joy without need for any self-reference. That identity will expand to get to that level. Where you are now is relying on the training wheels of this information that you've received over the years. You don't need those training wheels anymore, but yet we understand that taking off training wheels invites hazard, uncertainty,
Mhm.
imbalance.
Mhm.
This is the courage to take the training wheels off, to use whatever you've learned so far as simply a little foundation, and then to start thinking about what's coming to you, because we promise you, you cannot be here and not be a clear channel. You are interrupting that clear channel by relying on others to explain physical reality. But the way you have come to explain it is so unique and so different and so interesting that it causes everything to pale in comparison. This is why Gary can channel, because it's not the same thing. It's at a different vibration. And only those who reach that vibration. This is a challenging level for most because it takes away the entire relation of the outside condition, how you feel. You are now responsible for your perception of reality, not responsible for the conditions you create. It is the antithesis of what everyone wants when they hear the words, "You're the creator of your reality." It requires deep inner work. You are generating a reality from an inner state. The only thing you can do is go within, but what's within? All the darkness, all the fear, all the doubt, all the beliefs you brought in with you that are to be resolved in this lifetime. That's the work that you are doing as you are allowing yourself to go within and trust yourself. This will lead to true satisfaction. Because if you are simply telling somebody something as if you know it because you've read it from somewhere else, you are not offering them anything new. They could have gone and read the same thing. What are you doing? You are just curating some information for them because you see them as needing it. It doesn't work this way. You will never gain the satisfaction. Now, you are enjoying a little bit of a spotlight here. And that, to you, you are using as an excuse to feel good. And you're using as an excuse to say, I mean something, I matter. But this is not what you are here to do. You are here to bring in the new, not regurgitate the old. This has been an exciting and interesting journey. We hope we have answered the bulk of your questions. We believe that you are absolutely perfectly on the right footing. This interaction will shift your perspective, and you will move through the rest of your freedom project, realizing you are not learning anything new. You are tuning to a version of yourself that is who you intended to be. You will get there. It is up to you when and how, and that is your journey that you get to make. And with that, we are complete.
Love it. Thank you.
Wow, that was pretty intense.
Oh, that's terrific, Gary. I know everything that they said is true, and I just know it's true. I just got to embody it more. I mean, I'm getting there.
Yeah, you can't. That's the funny thing about embodiment. There's no way you can embody something. It's just going to happen.
It's going to fit when it happens.
It's going to happen when it happens, right?
Yeah. But intellectually, when I read the Freedom Project material, when I hear it fits. I know there's not a doubt in my mind that it's not real. It's real. It's just I have to let it sink in and embody it. But it's 100% right on.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, thank you, Gary. This it's always been terrific.
Thanks, Daryl. This was fun. I appreciate it.